A shoot interview is defined as an interview conducted out of character with a wrestler, promoter, manager, or other insider generally being interviewed about their career and asked to give their opinions on wrestlers, promotions, or specific events in their past. Back in the day, shoot interviews used to be eagerly awaited. Whenever a wrestler left WWE or TNA, we would all wait in masses to see what that wrestler would have to say about the company and individuals in their shoot interview. And nowadays, shoot interviews just don't really hit the same, but it's still fun to go back and listen to the old ones. Today we're going to be discussing some more of the most heated shoot interviews, of course featuring Jim Cornette. Nobody is safe from Jim Cornette, but what you can stay safe from is hackers and people trying to steal your personal data, and that's all thanks to today's sponsor, ExpressVPN. I've been using VPNs for years, and ExpressVPN is by far the best one I've used. There are many reasons you might want to use a VPN. I have my own personal reasons, one of them being that I want to protect myself online. When ExpressVPN is turned on, it encrypts your data and makes it safe from hackers and people who might be trying to steal your personal information. Another reason I use ExpressVPN is to unlock region-locked content. For example, you might be in the US and you might be absolutely sick of Peacock and just want the old WWE network back. With ExpressVPN, that is possible. Simply just turn ExpressVPN on into a different region and boom, region-locked content unlocked. If you're stressed that ExpressVPN might slow down your computer, then do not be worried because ExpressVPN has premium servers that give you the fastest speed. And as well as that, they have 24/7 customer support. It is easily the best VPN option out there. To get ExpressVPN, just use my link in the description below, and when you use it, you will get 3 months for free. You're helping support the channel, you're protecting yourself online, and you're getting it for 3 months for free. Check it out, link down below, and let's get into the video. Jim Cornette's rants on extreme wrestling and deathmatch wrestling have been something that have particularly caught the ear of listeners. If you aren't aware, Jim Cornette despises deathmatch wrestling. He hates it as he considers it to not be real wrestling, and also due to his history with Ian Rotten, who got wrestling banned in many venues in Kentucky due to the stuff taking place on IWA Mid-South shows, much to the dismay of Jim Cornette. In this interview here, he lets his feelings be known on hardcore wrestling and individuals involved in hardcore wrestling.
This hardcore bullshit where suddenly, I like the business, as Dutch Mantell always says in his greatest line, I like the business a lot better when the marks were out front in the seats. All of a sudden, guys are beating the fuck out of each other for real in front of a bunch of people who know that everything they're doing is choreographed, and they're cheering it because they're really hurting each other. What kind of fucking psychology is that? And they're doing it for practically no money, and they're also doing it just for the sake of being on television so the people chant ECW. Why do the wrestlers in the ring want the people to chant the name of the promotion? It used to be, go Ricky, go, go, now it's ECW. Oh great, I just fractured my fucking sacroiliac, broke my fucking leg, and shoved a fucking wooden spike up my taint. And they're not chanting Jim, 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 they're chanting ECW. Great.
He also discusses the 2008 film The Wrestler starring Mickey Rourke, in which he gives a fairly unpopular opinion and gives reasons as to why he doesn't like the film, which really surprised me as this film is very critically acclaimed and I've only ever seen it praised by people in and out of the wrestling business.
The Wrestler, right? I saw a bootleg DVD because I couldn't go to the movies in Louisville because many people know who I am there. I've been on TV there for 25 fucking years. And I was embarrassed because now people look at you like, oh, you're in that wrestling, but they take staple guns and staple dollar bills to each other's heads and cut each other with razor blades. What kind of fucking morons might they be? I would rather move next door to somebody on the federal sex offender registry, then move next door to somebody in the wrestling business after seeing The Wrestler. Broken down, drug addict, has no family, and fucking slices and dices himself to pieces on the fucking weekends for chicken feed.
On the 18th of July 2005, The Ultimate Warrior's first ever shoot interview was released. This was a huge event. Warrior had a very turbulent career in wrestling, as well as a very turbulent relationship with the WWE. This was the same year that WWE released their Self-Destruction of Ultimate Warrior DVD. He'd been involved in lawsuits with WWE over his name and likeness for years, and also ran a blog where he would often just trash the WWE and people like Lex Luger, Hulk Hogan, and Vince McMahon. And in this 2005 interview, he took the opportunity to make sure he ripped into everyone.
A lot of the guys down there, Chris Adams, of course there were a lot of assholes too. Matt Bourne was down there, the guy that went on to become a dork. He was a real dickhead. Buzz Sawyer, was a real nutcase. I mean, those guys were really malicious. They really tried to hurt you. Bruiser Brody. I mean, a lot of guys that aren't around anymore. I mean, I haven't written my book yet. A lot of the stories about them. Hogan's whole life has been a work. And there's nothing about his life that's ever been unplanned. So he probably had it planned out from the beginning.
What's your take on Jake Roberts? Because he's a character in the business and a person in the business that everybody seems to have a million stories about. So what do you?
Well, I think Jake has probably revealed more stories and more of the substance about himself than anybody else could add to it. I mean, he's a liar, he's a lech, he's a loser, and there's not much more to say.
Warrior's most known public feud was with Hulk Hogan, who Warrior would talk shit about for years. In 2011, he filmed and uploaded a 52-minute video of him all just talking about Hulk Hogan and his disdain for him.
Terry, the biggest mistake that you've made all these years that you've worked to mischaracterize me and paint this picture of me being a horrible human being, the biggest mistake that you made was that you worked yourself into believing that I was not even there at that time and place where our lives crossed paths. I mean, when you talk about Warrior, Ultimate Warrior, you talk about me like my presence and participation never even existed. It's incredible how you and others do. It's like you think if you don't mention it or you belittle it in a really violent way, that history will be changed, that the memory of it will just disappear forever. And that's just ridiculous. In your mind, there was only room for Terry Bollea and nobody else. You know that I know what kind of malicious and backstabbing operator you are. And you know that when I have something to say about you, it is not a guess. Others know it too. They know that I don't bullshit. They know that I never have. On the other hand, you have a long-running reputation for being a liar and a fraud and a phony.
At Starrcade 99 for WCW, Bret Hart defended his WCW World Heavyweight Championship against Goldberg, and during the match, Hart was struck with a thrust kick to the head, resulting in a severe concussion. This is what ultimately would cause Bret Hart to retire from wrestling and end his wrestling career. And this happened 24 years ago, but I'll tell you right now that Bret Hart has not forgiven Goldberg. It's pretty well known that he has not forgiven Goldberg because he sneaks in disses to Goldberg in pretty much every statement he ever makes publicly. Bret Hart despises Goldberg for ending his career.
Do you ever think about if you hadn't had to retire when you did, do you think you would have been the kind of guy that in your kind of late 40s you still have been going and you still been wrestling?
Hell yeah. I would have shit those guys and wrestled in Saudi Arabia and each guy got paid $3 million each. Bill Goldberg, who kicked me in the head, never even thought about it, 8 months later, went over to Saudi Arabia, got paid $3 million for a 5 minutes wrestling match and put all that money in his pocket, but never once thought about costing me $16 million when he kicked me in the head. And so, I regret that I got injured by a guy that couldn't wrestle and has no business of being in a Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of Shame.
Just going to try to go out and do my job. I would have loved to have worked a little bit more with Bret Hart, and I would have loved more than anything to have not kicked Bret Hart in the head, and what happened. There have been things said on the internet, either by Brett or other people, that I was malicious and he shouldn't have been in the ring with me. And hey, I'm really sorry, man. But if I really wanted to hurt the guy, he would never have gotten up. Okay? And I'm no joke. He would have gotten up. But accidents happen. And he was an idol of mine and still is.